Alright, next question comes from BGXRebirth Animations, and he asked, what is your opinion on Bray Wyatt and his new Fiend gimmick? I think Bray Wyatt is one of the best talents that WWE has had in the modern day, even though I stopped watching WWE around 2013 because of that WrestleMania match between Rock and Cena. Ugh. But from what I've seen of the character in segments, I gotta say, it's pretty unique, I'll say that. You know, he's kinda like this dark, evil cult leader similar to how Raven's character was. And honestly, he should have been a bigger star than he was, but unfortunately, because WWE's writing has gotten so terrible over the years, it really didn't surprise me that they dropped the ball on the character by booking him like absolute shit. So it only made sense to repackage him. And I can't really give too much of an opinion on the Fiend gimmick, because this indie vanilla midget crap made me give less of a fuck about anything related to modern wrestling. However, I did see some segments involving this new gimmick of Bray Wyatt on YouTube, and I must say, it's pretty cool. I kind of feared that they were going to go with whatever the fuck that G-rated gimmick was, where he was kind of like that Steve guy from Blue's Clues, which I think was called the Bray Wyatt Funhouse gimmick. I don't know, but yeah, I'm glad they repackaged him, as they've been booking him like absolute shit by having him lose every single big feud he's been involved in, and just making you not take the character seriously anymore. Wyndham Rotundo is a good mic worker and a great actor, and he's the kind of guy that can turn shit into gold. I actually did see the entrance that he had at SummerSlam, which looked pretty cool, and also the other segment involving Mick Foley. And let me tell you, that segment alone is way more interesting than any no-story vanilla midget indie match from NXT. Fact. So I do like it, however, I just don't care anymore because I'm pretty presentiment on WWE fucking up this character, because WWE fucks up everything nowadays. They can't build the stars and create good storylines anymore because they don't give a shit. So there you go. But thanks for your question. So the next question we have here is from Dark Rymaster66, who is a real cool dude. And this guy spreads the good taste when he makes his videos. So he asked, what would the movie industry be like if martial art movies were still in the mainstream? Would they get oversaturated like superhero movies? Or would they have a better quality with each installment and not repetitive and boring? It's a pretty interesting question, and now that you ask that. Now, I for one never thought martial art films were ever oversaturated. I just think people lost interest in them for some reason. My guess is because people want to see real fights nowadays. Because people think choreographed fights aren't good enough anymore. And due to the popularity of UFC and MMA, people just want things to be on the fly. But to try to answer your question as best I can, from what I've heard from other people, they say that martial art movies are still kind of popular. It's just that now they're kind of absorbed into the more action movie category. Pretty much every movie involving soldiers and mercenaries has some kind of kung fu, karate, and Muay Thai in it. Which sucks because I was hoping for a bit of a renaissance of martial art films around the time of Ong Bak. But as others have said, the genre has been absorbed by action movies. Would they be better with each installment? I think they would. I've seen some pretty good martial art movies in the modern day, from Ninja 2, The IP Man, the Raid series, which I enjoyed the first one, the Kickboxer series, 13 Assassins, Headshot, Killzone, the Warrior TV show, and the Anita Battle Angel, which I haven't seen yet but I've heard good things about. But I might check it out because I did like the original anime from the early 90s. And lastly, we have the John Wick series, which I enjoy all three movies. So I do think there is still a place for martial art movies, as there are people in general that like a bit more realism compared to all these boring comic book movies. Which really surprises me that people are not sick of these movies yet. But they will eventually. Just you wait. But yeah, they still can be done today. And the John Wick and Raid series are good examples of the modern take of martial art movies. And his final question, how would the American mainstream be like if modern rap and pop music were never popular or mainstream, and that it never existed? Way better. Well, for one thing, there would be no pop music because pop pretty much stands for popular music, which is pretty much a huge ambulation of different genres. So technically, any music that makes success could be considered pop music. And if that genre was not popular, then what would be the whole point of calling it pop music? You get what I'm saying? And even if the genre was made in the underground and was called something else, what type of loser or faggot on this planet would want to listen to gay-ass, watered-down, cringy music in the underground? But getting back to your question, I think old genres like rock, jazz, funk, and disco would still be dominating, but they could evolve into something forced and worse than what we have today, with all of the mainstream artists and genres, which I would hope not. But if all music produced to appeal to a big consumer will disappear, there would be a totally new mainstream to come in existence in a week or two, which I don't have any problems with that, to be honest. And if this prevents us from having to deal with the existence of obnoxious and annoying music, then I'd be down for it. I personally think electronic music would possibly have a bigger audience as well as some other new genre in rap's place. And I think it would be a lot easier for rock and metal bands to get on the Billboard. And if rap never existed, oh man, how much smarter our society would be. For one thing, I'd like to hope there'd be a lot less violence, less people acting ghetto, and less glorification of drug dealing among the illegal activities. I mean, seriously, I know dozens of people whose lives are still affected by listening to garbage rap that told them the way to the top was through violence and slinging drugs. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm almost 30 and live in a small town. Where is this hood you're trying to escape? And I'd also like to hope that all the ghetto hood rats and wannabe thugs and gangbangers will be looked down upon as a bunch of clowns and goofballs who just want a big floppy dick in the ass. And this goes out to all the ethnic backgrounds that want to emulate this culture. But if rap didn't exist, then we wouldn't be having all this ghetto ratchet shit. If it means less crime and less goofballs, then I'd be down for it. So to answer your question, Darkrai Master, yeah, I think the American mainstream would be a hell of a lot better than what it is now. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for your questions, Darkrai Master. Alright, so this next question comes from Miss Lunatic. And she asks, why are people nowadays afraid to think for themselves and just want to go along with the crowd of people who overrate bad taste? Because unfairly in a society, it's the thing you have to do because of peer pressure. I mean, if you ask me, it's always been like this. The thing is, people are just afraid of their lives being boring and lonely if they were to objectively think for themselves. And it's funny too because I was having a conversation with my roommate the other day, and he said it best that even if you're a person with good taste that wants to pass your taste down to your kids, eventually your kids will get older around the middle school or high school age. And they're gonna want to get into trends that other kids are into because they want to make friends. And that's just how it is. And that goes for all of us who have been in high school. I mean, when you really think about it, we were never really given that much of a choice but to try and get into stuff that other people like, just so we could fit in and make friends with all the other cool kids if we wanted to survive high school. And it really doesn't matter what it is, whether it's some new shitty teen pop star, or some mumble rapper, or just some stupid reality show about a bunch of uninteresting stuff happening, or even some stupid comedy movie of black stereotypes doing stereotypical Negro shit. I mean, it could be all that crap. People just get brainwashed by bad taste so easily as if they think it's good, just because a lot of people are into them. And then they'll sit there and shrug their shoulders if you call them out on it, because they know they don't have a good argument for why they like what they like. They just accept it like junk food. They know deep down inside what they like isn't that good, but they can't help but like it anyways because a lot of these people are not that smart, they have no shame and no good taste. And that's how it is. Most people out there are just a bunch of mind control zombies who buy into everything from the mainstream media, while there's a few of us out there that actually have common sense. But yet us who have good taste make little to no friends and no respect, while others that have bad taste make a lot of friends because it's so easy to just simply dumb yourself down and like garbage. And that's just how it is. So your next question. Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark? I personally think Goosebumps was a better show because R.L. Stine had a lot of unique ideas in a lot of his books. And as a whole, the show had a lot of variety than a dozen episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, for example, oh look, a spirit is haunting and needs X to happen and needs Y to be put to rest. And I've just always felt the high production values took away from any of the scares of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Goosebumps, I felt, had a lot more good episodes. Even the bad episodes of Goosebumps like Go Eat Worms and Strain Peas at least gave me some comical satisfaction. Plus, most episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark couldn't even top stuff like The Haunted Mask, Stay Out of the Basement, Night of the Living Dummy, Welcome to Dead House, The Werewolf Fever Swamp, The Perfect School, and many more. The only thing Are You Afraid of the Dark had over Goosebumps was a better time slot. And that's really it. And her final question. Do you think Invader Zim would have been a lot more successful had it aired on MTV instead of Nickelodeon? Yeah, I definitely would have seen Invader Zim becoming a lot more successful on MTV, mainly because MTV has had animated shows that were made for older audiences, like Beavis and Butthead, Aeon Flux, and Celebrity Deathmatch, which I used to love. The only downside to that is the show being too expensive to produce, because that's one of the reasonings for the show's cancellation. And not just that, but also the show being too popular outside of Nickelodeon's core demographic. I will say that it would give Jonan Vasquez a lot more creative freedom to make the show he always wanted, but you also gotta take into account the show's production costs. And it's funny now that you mentioned MTV, because Jonan Vasquez did say in an interview that they were planning on transferring the show to MTV, but that never happened. Oh, and another thing I think played a part to the show's cancellation was 9/11. I've read online that they felt the show was too dark and edgy for the time slot they placed it in, so because of that, Nickelodeon began changing the show's time slot and promoted less and less of the new episodes, because how was anybody supposed to know when the show was on? So because of that, it led to the show's cancellation. Plus, there was that one Bloody Gur episode. And that's how it is, really. I mean, it's so funny how we became super sensitive over any show that resembled violence or anything like that. I mean, seriously. So to answer your question, yeah, I am pretty sure the show would have been a lot more successful had it aired on MTV. But I still think the high production cost would have been a problem though. And that pretty much wraps up your question, so thank you, Miss Lunatic.